Hello.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. Where do you come from?
I'm from the East Ukraine. My name is Kirill.
And what city or village do you live in?
Lugansk.
Lugansk.
That is also not far from the Russian border.
How many kilometers is it from the borders?
It's about 100 kilometers only, because I'm living not in Lugansk itself, in the place not far from it. So it's 100 kilometers from our place to the border, which is not existent actually. It was opened all the time. Now it's a bit of a problem after all these events of last 2 years.
The border with Russia is closed.
Still, it's not closed, but it's under supervision, of course. This district actually is very pro-Russian, so we don't have Ukrainian military there.
No. Do you feel or do you encounter the consequences of the civil war in Ukraine?
Yeah, it has, of course, an impact of the future of the country. Well, I must say the previous government was really corrupt. But the government which is governing now is not less corrupt. So we don't understand what for people were killed or died voluntarily. So to be frank, I don't see any way out in the visible future.
The only difference I see is that the former president was
pro-Russian,
and the one now is
extremely
pro-Europe,
pro-American, I would say. Yeah,
okay.
With Europe it has nothing to do, I'm afraid.
Okay.
They have also some conflicts inside the government. The president and the prime minister. The prime minister is even more powerful at the moment, also extremely corrupt, and he's very pro-American. And we know that Americans prepared him to get this job many years ago already. So
I see.
His name is the name of the president is Poroshenko, and this chap, his name is Yatsenyuk.
Okay. And how do the people feel in Ukraine about this new government?
The government will be changed soon. There is no doubt in that. But what will come up later, we don't know.
So there will be new elections
of the parliament. First, they are allowed to try to change the government without elections, and if the president doesn't succeed, then he has right to resolve the parliament. We don't know how far he will go, but we call ourselves now Luganskaya Народная Республика, and that is a sort of a gray zone, semi-independent, not a state, not a republic, something in between Russia and Ukraine.
Okay, you know? So the east of Ukraine is somehow independent from...
Not completely, partly. Some cities, Lugansk, Donetsk, and something else. Kharkov, for instance, is under the Ukrainian government, but the people are also very pro-Russian because all the industry was working for Russia. 90% of the export was supposed to be sent to Russia, and now it's all broken. It's not allowed to have any trade with the Russians because it was also military industry. So people don't have jobs anymore. They're just surviving.
So there's a lot of unemployment in the east of Ukraine due to
also in the central Ukraine, but in east is damaged due to the conflict, and it was also heavily bombed. So people don't speak about it here, but it was a real war, and the nationalists they stop at nothing. So the first law after the change of government was to forbid Russian language. They tried
to forbid what?
To forbid Russian language, not to forbid it completely. It was called a regional language, so they wanted to abolish this regional status. But then the former, he was not a president. He was the speaker of the parliament. He got the right of veto, so he blocked that. But they tried to pass this law. It was one of the first laws after the change of the government. Of course, people were frustrated because we have 8 million Russian-speaking people. All of us are actually bilingual. It's not a problem, but
Okay.
it's a matter of principle.
And how many people does actually live in Ukraine?
45 million.
45
that
million.
was before the war approximately, and now maybe 500,000 left to Russia.
Okay. And when you look at these 40 million people, how many of these
45.
people are in favor of Russia, and how many do you think are in favor of America?
It's difficult to judge. In general, I think the majority is more they are pro-European, not pro-American, but they are pro-European in majority. In majority, also in the East, they want to have some balance. But Russia is also a corrupt country, and we must acknowledge that. So we are looking for a model, for a way out, but we see also this story with the refugees. We don't understand how can Europe exist without borders. So people are making mistakes everywhere.
Yeah.
So we are a bit skeptical about it all.
What is your advice? You know about this referendum in Holland? People are being asked to tell whether they are in favor of against the treaty of the European Union with Ukraine.
We are against in the East against the treaty in this form.
Okay.
We want to negotiate to find some compromise.
And why are you against it?
Because then we have problems with Russia. If they sign this treaty, we are not allowed to sell anything. Well, it will be very difficult to have any trade, any relationship to Russia. And as I said, when you have 85% of the whole production for the Russian market, what can you do? We don't believe that the European market is open for the Ukrainian goods. The quality is not good enough, and then this market is protected anyhow. So even these Baltic states have great problems, and they are inside the European Union already for quite some time. And I know many of them who go to Germany to work for 20 euros per day. So even the Baltic states, and the situation there is much better than in Ukraine.
So your advice is
not in this form.
in this form, because it's not favorable to the Ukrainian
It's
people.
not favorable to the Ukrainian people, and I'm afraid it's not favorable to Europe as well, because Europe wanted to have a good market also, and if people in Ukraine are poor and starving, well, what can you start with
That
them?
is the situation right now in Ukraine.
It's very difficult. They are just surviving. So in the east-south, they are more pro-Russian. In Kiev, in the capital, and in the west, they are more pro-Western. You have to find a compromise, and now they are not eager to find any compromise. And by the way, we were not at all against that the Crimea would go back to Russia, because the absolute majority there is Russian. They are speaking Russian. It's only 10% of the Tatar population there. There are no Ukrainians there. They came only during the Second World War to the empty houses of the Crimean Tatars who were sent to Siberia and all that. So I think Europe must be more flexible. But if it's possible, I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for these questions, because I'm actually surprised. But I know that Dutch people are open to different opinions. They think a lot, and they want to know the reality. So we are grateful for that. that you try to find out what people really think, what's going on really. We wouldn't expect that from our American friends, but still I'm a bit surprised that something like this is possible, and it's nice of you to do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.